All right, abusia mi cha na me san so emo akwa basonko so abusia for ever emra channel so ha. That's why bear media GH abusia be se wa se ene dey dika wani etwa channel so ne dey no group kwan so. Abusia for be se wa se obe subscribe like na wa bo aso aso for person be atie no. Anya bi ati abusia bear media GH fa se kwanya we so ado biara ase abusia from day one. Mo na ma support your channel no amana bedu eye pempen so say e ka so ba de o hira mo o ma na dom no anya kase e wo ye yina ye so na abusia His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, yes, and the dear Nkomo and Abba. I bet you say His Excellency John Dramani Mahama Busia were calling for a year cabinet emergency meeting. His Excellency are calling for cabinet emergency meeting. Abusia, DNT and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama are calling for a year emergency meeting. Where the Mama Kasama Pesio. Now you tell some about mountain. Yes, see, and Nunti, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, a Jinaso, are calling for a year emergency meeting. Enyasem ko try best wa say obe subscribe e dey amaya busu am repeat support notification bell no so for more podcast update that's why bear media GH
that the meeting aims of the Cool Business Forum. President John Dramani Mahama made a strong case for Ghana's economy, highlighting its resilience and ability to withstand any global shock. He announced that he had called an emergency cabinet meeting to strategize on cushioning Ghanaians amid current happenings in Iran and its impact on fuel prices.
I can confidently tell you that the economy is not going to crash because of the war. I've called for an emergency cabinet meeting to decide some measures we can take to cushion the petroleum price while we expect that the war comes to an end. There are some tweaking we can do in terms of levies and margins and other things in order to maintain a stable price while we pray that the war comes to an end.
The president revealed that the country has petroleum reserves to last for the next 6 weeks. He also commended transport owners and operators for collaborating with government amid recent fuel hikes and not hiking transport fares.
I want to express my sincere gratitude to the transport unions, for being the late Ferdinand Ayim. Yeah, he gave a tourist boost to the whole Easter homecoming. And so they added the paragliding and so many other events to the Kwahu Easter. And so when we're thinking, myself and Julius, we said, look, it should not just be entertainment and enjoyment and all that. Considering the nature of the Kwahu people and their business acumen, let's also use it as an opportunity to create a forum where the business people can come and network and interact and see how to manage their businesses even better. And so the first one we did was in 2024. We're still in opposition. We had the audacity to hold a Kwahu Business Forum. And there are a few people, businessmen I want to thank. K.O. Fori, NS Chemist, I think, Metalex, Front Tissue. Some of them I know by their businesses, not their names. The Rocksters and a few others, Seconds, East Cantonments, and all of them. It was a makeshift tent. And I remember they came and sat here. And in those days, it was dangerous to be identified with the opposition, so it took a bit of courage for them to come to that event. But it was a very simple, successful event. And I think at that event, I made a promise that if we win power, we're going to make this a permanent annual event. And that we're going to make it one of the biggest business forums that takes place annually in this country. And I promised that I was going to drag my ministers, the bank managers, and everybody, if I become president, to come and attend the forum. And so last year, we brought almost everybody. All the banks were here, fintechs, small and medium enterprises and everybody. And they saw how useful it was. The networking and all that was very useful. And so this year, they are here again in their numbers. And we said that we will have all of them reporting what they've been able to do after they left the forum of last year. And so I'm happy that our MD for Ghana Exim has been able to give us a report about 3 businesses that they are supporting. And I wish that they will support some more. I know they have constraints of funding, but we'll soon come out of the IMF program. They've been trying to raise some credit so that they can expand financing of Ghanaian businesses. But when we come out of the IMF program, that constraint would have been removed. And I know one of the companies especially that has gotten assistance, Nobi Farms. I was there about 2 weeks ago, and it's impressive what Nobi Farms has done. 7,000 hectares of rice under irrigation, all year round harvesting of rice. And this financing is to allow them to install a mill to be able to mill their own rice and bag it and make it ready for the market. So this is a very critical source of credit. We want to take this whole thing a step further, and so we are working with Metalex and Trazaco to build a permanent convention, conference, and exhibition center on this site. And so we want it to become a center for conferences and exhibitions, not only in Ghana, but for organizations that come from outside Ghana to come and hold conferences and exhibitions here. And so they are thinking of a permanent convention center, space for performances, meetings, exhibitions, and then we're also going to improve the whole road network in the Kwahu area so that the congestion that is normally created will reduce. And ultimately, we want to have an airstrip here so that flights can come in, both domestically and people coming from outside who want to come and attend conferences. And so the business forum is going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm sure that any subsequent government that comes will continue to be a patron of the Kwahu Business Forum. But let me report to you, since we came back into government, I was here last year. Can somebody read what is on that placard there? I can't see what he has written. Somebody is raising up a placard. I think he wants to draw my attention to something. But I'm saying, since we came here last year, I gave some Ghana is a land of free speech, and so I'm sure he has some beef with somebody. And so whoever he has a beef with, I beg you, go and engage him. And so, since the last forum, I'm happy to report to you that the business environment is much, much, much better than it was before. Business confidence has come back. Foreign direct investment is increasing, and even domestic investment is increasing. In addition, government's appetite for debt has gone down, and so we're borrowing less from the treasury market, we're borrowing less from the banks, and so the crowding out effect that used to occur, where the private sector had no access to credit, the banks now are holding huge liquidities, and they must find somebody to lend it to because government won't take it. Treasury bill rates are low, so if you put your money in treasury bills, you won't get much. And so you must look to the private sector to give financing. And I'm happy that the Ghana reference rate has come down, and so interest rates have come down. Interest rates in 2024 were about 32%. Today, I heard of somebody who borrowed at 10%, 9%. And so I think that it creates a much better environment than we had before. In addition, Inflation is down, and so it allows us to have more predictable pricing. Our constant focus had been on macroeconomic stability, to stabilize the macroeconomic environment, and we have done so. And also to create a more resilient economy. As we said, shocks will come. You cannot predict external events, but you must create an economy that is able to withstand those shocks. I know Iran and Israel and all have been fighting. So far, our economy has shown some resilience. We have almost 6 months of export cover. We have about 6 weeks. We have about 6 weeks of petroleum stock in our tanks, and so there's no danger of us running out of petroleum within the next 6 weeks. Even as we're using the reserve stocks, we also are replenishing it, and so there's no danger that we would have queues at filling stations and other places. In addition, and indeed the most important event that has taken place since last year is the performance of the Ghanaian currency. The currency has stabilized, and it has made the investment environment more predictable for business people. And so even levies and duties at the port are lower. And that's why I tell importers, I don't see any reason why you should try and underdeclare your imports, because the bank rates determine the levies at the port, and the levies are fixed in dollars. And in 2024, you were bringing your goods in, and you were paying the equivalent CD of $16 or $15, whatever it is. Today, you are paying the equivalent of $10.9 CD to the dollar. So it means that automatically your duties and levies have come down in CD terms. So there should be no incentive for anybody to still want to cheat government. But we know that they say in every house there's a Mensa. People would, if they have the opportunity, do it. And so it leads me to one of the things Jerry said about AI. Digitalization and artificial intelligence is being employed. It's something whose time has come. The system Ghana is using today is so far being used by 21 other countries. And so it is something whose time has come, and the Ministry of Finance has started implementing it. I've heard a few complaints about unfair, imposition in terms of what duties and levies have to be paid. And so the ministry has an appeal system. So far, it is held 2 days in a week. I have advised that they increase the number of days. And so if you get your invoice and it's a legitimate invoice, and of course sometimes AI and any digitalization can get things wrong. And so if you have your legitimate invoice and you think that the duties and levies that have been imposed are higher, but if they are higher, then you normally take it to the appeal. They go through the process and they vet your invoice. And if it is justified that, yes, you have been overcharged, the appropriate duties and levies are reduced. And so we'll increase the number of appeal days. So far, it's the minister who has been chairing the appeal process. I think that the deputy minister and others can chair additional appeal process, maybe even 5 times a week, so that anybody who has any issue can go up there and challenge it. But when you get a stronger currency, you also must look at the other side, the exporters. Because the importers are happy when the currency appreciates, but the exporters are also not happy because the same dollar that they bring, they get less CDs for their dollar. And that's why I've always said that we're not looking for a strong currency. We're not looking for a strong CD. we're looking for a stable city. A stable city that is predictable, and we know that it will not decline or depreciate